Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In today's video, I am going to be discussing last night's game between the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks. And it was a fantastic game to be sure. The Suns were able to come away with a 125-124 victory after Giannis's potential game winner ended up rimming out. And it's definitely heartbreaking as a Bucks fan to see it end like this, but I definitely think that it speaks to this team's character that they were able to work their way back into it. To blow a 12-point halftime lead and be down by 8 points with just 2 minutes remaining has to be demoralizing for a team. And that's the position the Bucks found themselves in when they got down 124-116 as the game started to reach its conclusion. But they did not give up. They continued to fight from there. They made a couple huge plays. Donte DiVincenzo came away with a monster steal. Khris Middleton made a couple big shots. Actually, I think he just made the one big three, but it was definitely huge. Giannis got to the rim a couple times and had a very important and one. But when push came to shove, the Suns ended up being the team that was just able to knock down one more shot, and that is what won them the game, as Devin Booker made the game-winning free throw with, I think, 32 seconds on the clock. So definitely a great game and could have gone either way. Dang, I wish Giannis's look would have gone in there. But even with this being a loss for the Bucks, I definitely think that had Jrue Holiday been healthy for this one, this might have gone in the other direction. The primary reason why the Suns were able to win was because they got some fantastic scoring outings from their monstrous backcourt with Devin Booker and Chris Paul. Booker had 30 points on 11 for 21 shooting and made 7 of his 9 free throws, and CP3 had 28 points on 10 for 20 shooting and made 4 of his 7 threes. A lot of Booker's damage came in the in-between game as he was able to get to his spots in the mid-range, and yeah, he's knocking down those shots at a very high rate, and today was no exception. I actually thought that Khris Middleton did a really nice job on Booker in the first half, but in the latter part of the second quarter, Booker got Torrey Craig matched up on him, and that was a matchup that D-Book looked to exploit. And after that, he really got rolling, and that carried over to the second half. I think that with about 3 or 4 minutes remaining in that second quarter, D-Book only had 4 points on the game. And from that stretch on, it felt like he could not miss a shot, and he was able to finish with 30 points, including a couple huge shots for the Suns. He was really their only source of offense in that fourth quarter, as a lot of their other players were not necessarily contributing at a super high level down the stretch. But Chris Paul also had a great game, as I said before. A lot of his production came with some crafty old man game, as he was able to draw some pretty weak foul calls on the Bucks. They were fouls, but it's the kind where he's able to trick someone to put their hand in the cookie jar and then swipe the ball away so that they make contact with his arm, and they're in the bonus. So that's 2 free throws for Chris Paul, who's a 95% free throw shooter on the year, so easy 2 points for the Suns. And he also shot the ball really well from 3, was able to knock down a couple catch and shoot looks, and was 4 for 7 from beyond the arc. But if the Bucks did have Jrue Holiday in this game, he could have taken one of those two guys out of the game because of his ability as a defensive stopper, and he probably could have really limited how much they were able to get going, as once Khris Middleton went out of the game, the Bucks would still have a super high level perimeter defender to place on Booker. So Jrue's absence was certainly felt, but you also have to give props to this great Suns backcourt for giving them this 58-point night, and they needed all 58 of those points from these two guys in order to win this game. And there is a reason why this game was as close as it was. If Giannis was not playing, then this would not have been a close game. Giannis did everything he could to win this one for the Bucks, and he ended up putting up one of the more ridiculous stat lines of the season. He had 47 points and 11 rebounds on 15 for 23 shooting and 17 for 21 from the free throw line. He was just playing so physically. He was attacking the wall. that the Suns were trying to build to stop him. He was attacking the zone once that was the adjustment that they made. He was looking for contact at the rim, and I can't even count how many times he was able to bait DeAndre Ayton into falling for a pump fake and then draw the contact and either finish for an and one or get to the free throw line for 2 shots. Giannis also was very deadly from the free throw line as he made 17 of those 21 free throw attempts, which is a very efficient night for him and definitely something that is promising if you are a Bucks supporter. Shooting above 80% from the line on any game is good for Giannis, and to do it on a day in which he attempted 21 free throws is fantastic. He also had a promising day outside of getting to the line as he knocked down quite a few of those mid-range jumpers that have been a bit of a problem for him so far this season. He's shooting below 30% from mid-range, I believe, which is definitely not good. So to see him look very comfortable, both taking turnaround jumpers out of the post, as well as some jab step J's, as I like to call them, Carmelo Anthony was certainly one of the best at that type shot. And that was definitely a good sign for Giannis. And he also, obviously, was able to grab 11 rebounds, which is very, very good. I didn't really have anywhere I was going there, so I ended up saying, yep, he rebounds too. So great game from Giannis, but I don't think the same can necessarily be said for his partner in crime, Khris Middleton. This just wasn't Chris's game. He had a couple really tough plays down the stretch, one of which was a time where he got to the free throw line and ended up going 0 for 2. Khris Middleton is shooting 92% from the line so far this season, I believe. So for him to go 0 for 2 from there is not something that is a common occurrence whatsoever. And it was definitely disappointing because it came at a pretty huge juncture of the game late in the fourth quarter. He also had that unfortunate and costly turnover very, very late in the game in which he tried to pass it to Giannis in the post, but Jay Crowder ended up kind of pulling the chair out from underneath Giannis. I think there was probably some contact on that play and perhaps a foul should have been called, but it ended up being a turnover for Khris, and that just really hurt the Bucks. Khris did nail a huge three-pointer from the corner in transition that ended up, I think it was pushing the game from 119 to 124 to 122 to 124, and he also made a couple of huge passes to Giannis on lob attempts in the pick and roll. The one that obviously stood out was the pass that took the game from 122 to 124 to a tied game at 124. And Chris's playmaking has genuinely been terrific so far this season as he finished this game with 11 assists. However, the shots that he usually hits just weren't going down. I think a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that he was forced to defend Devin Booker for the whole game, and Booker is definitely one of the more challenging matchups in today's NBA, so that probably took quite a bit out of Chris's legs, but the Bucks needed a little bit more from him tonight, especially with Drew being out, and he just could not quite deliver. Bryn Forbes had another really nice game for the Bucks, filling in that 5th starting spot. I think all 17 of his points came in the first half, but that scoring in the first half was much needed, and it was a large reason why the Bucks were able to build up that lead in the first place. As I said, he had 17 points and made 5 of his 8 3-point attempts, so that gets him up to 15, and then the last one was a play in which he attacked a closeout and was able to get to the, I think it was Cam Johnson closeout. It might have been Jay Crowder, but he was able to get around him and get to the basket on a straight line drive and finish at the rim. So that's definitely a good sign from Bryn, who has been a little hesitant to score at the basket so far this season. No surprise there considering how small he is, but his hot shooting continued over into tonight's game, and I definitely think it's an interesting conversation to have of how impactful he's going to be for the Bucks in the playoffs. Now, I think a pretty easy comparison to make for Bryn would be to Seth Curry. And the reason why Bryn hasn't been able to be as impactful as Seth when the games get important is because he's not quite in the same league as a shooter. Both are great, but Seth is just a little bit better. And so far this season, Bryn has taken a leap even further. He's benefited so much from the open looks that Giannis and Chris generate for him, and he's been converting those at a very high level. So that level of shooting is very promising for the Bucks, and if he can continue to shoot the lights out the way he has recently, I definitely think he can be a playoff contributor, despite his defense being so subpar. The Seth Curry thing is definitely something to keep your eye on, as at times Curry can get played out of playoff series because of his lackluster defense, but I think I've got faith in Forbes working it out and becoming a weapon for this Bucks team off the bench come playoff time. Bobby Portis also had a nice game for the Bucks off the bench, finishing with 12 points and 9 rebounds on 5 for 7 shooting. The energy that he brings is so important. He allowed them to get out in transition on a couple occasions and made a few nice plays defensively. The one that stood out was a play where he jumped a post entry pass to a Suns big man at the top of the key, and he was able to break away for a monster slam. So another nice game from Bobby in what has been a very good season for him coming off the bench for the Bucks. I think that he is a pretty underrated 6th Man of the Year candidate so far and should definitely be in the running for that award. Moving over to the Suns, I'll just touch on them briefly because this video is already getting a little long because of all the time I spent talking about Giannis and Booker and Paul. But Frank Kaminsky has given the Suns some really solid minutes, and it makes me happy as a Wisconsin sports fan, as Frank is the best player in UW-Madison history as far as back as I can remember as a fan. And in this game, he played 35 minutes, had 14 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. And the 8 assists were what really stood out to me, as he made a few really nice passes where it wasn't necessarily a high-level read, but he just kept the ball moving and was able to find the open man in the half-court offense. He also made 2 of his 4 three-pointers and was not terrible defensively, as guarding Brook Lopez isn't necessarily the most difficult matchup in the world. So a nice game from Frank, and I'm definitely excited to see whether or not he'll be able to hang on to this newfound role as a starter for the Suns that he has had over the past 3 or 4 games for this squad. Outside of him and the backcourt, DeAndre Ayton had a nice first half, and he really struggled to get going in the second half. He had a lot of foul trouble because he was the guy matched up on Giannis, and Giannis shot 21 free throws, so obviously he was going to be committing quite a few fouls. Mikal Bridges and Cameron Johnson made some huge shots. They finished a combined 6 for 10 from three-point land, and Jay Crowder grabbed 14 rebounds for the Suns. He played really hard and was the secondary Giannis defender whenever Ayton was out of the game. So I think it is worth pointing that out, but other than that, I don't have too much to say about the Suns. They're a team that I've talked about quite a bit so far this season, and if you want my more conclusive thoughts, look back to a video I posted last week that was titled Breaking Down the NBA's Most Interesting Team, the Phoenix Suns. Anyways, I think that I covered everything that I wanted to cover. Genuinely a fantastic game, one of the best of the year, and I can't wait to see the Bucks take on the red-hot Utah Jazz in an exciting game on Friday. Let me know what you thought of this game in the comment section down below. Do you think that the last shot going to Giannis was the right call, or should Chris have taken that look? Let me know. Leave a like and subscribe if you did enjoy this video. That's going to be it for me, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you all again very soon.